You're listening to Rookie Pirate Radio, the official anime and manga podcast for InBetweenDrafts.com. I'm John Negroni.
And I'm Travis Hymas.
And today we're doing a manga recap of One Piece chapter 1087, titled Battleship Bags. Definitely my favorite chapter title in a while. And speaking of things that have been a while, Travis and I were sitting down to actually talk about a One Piece chapter. It feels a little weird, but also great.
It has been a drought. Genuinely. And this isn't even the first several week break One Piece has had, even recently, but wow. What we were left with was just so much information that it was it really did feel like a drought. We were in the desert looking for an oasis.
And some of us found oasis in the form of friends, family, loved ones, uplifting themselves through media. I found Domestic Girlfriend, and Travis has already warned me not to talk about Domestic Girlfriend, a manga that I read in 1 week and has changed my life. But no, we're here to talk about One Piece, and I don't want to get in any more trouble than I already am with not just Travis, but apparently Evan Griffin as well. Shout him out. Games editor of In Between Drafts. But as usual, we will be discussing spoilers for the One Piece manga up until this chapter. So if you have not yet read chapter 1087, be sure to do so now for free on the Viz website or Shonen Jump, the app, linked in the show notes as always. And remember, all new chapters are going to be available for you to read for free up to 3 weeks after the official release or whenever you want if you are a member of Shonen Jump, which we are and do recommend. But Travis, I know some of the people listening, I think every single one, They want to hit us up. They want to know how to connect with us. How do they do it?
Well, there's a couple of ways. So if you do want to hear John's hour-and-a-half screen on Domestic Girlfriend, which I have heard is good from him,
wait,
let us know.
You use the word good so judiciously, as if it has one meaning, as if there's if the world is that binary.
But if you want to hear the rest of this conversation, you can let us know. There's a couple of ways to do that. Of course, you can send us an email at rookiepirateradio@gmail.com. You can let us know what we got wrong during this episode. Let us know that you want to hear John talk about Domestic Girlfriend. Anything in the anime or manga space, we want to hear from you. But the best way to do that is to join the In Between Drafts Discord. There is a link Discord in the short show notes. Yeah, the Discord's popping off. We have people joining very regularly now, which is great. A lot of good conversations, and we don't just talk about anime and manga there in the Discord. We discuss everything that the site covers, from film to TV to games and more. So pop on in, join the community. It's a good time.
Can't wait to see you. Yeah, because the Discord is where I go for the latest One Piece stuff. Now that I don't have the Twitter, I don't have Twitter anymore. And so I was mainly keeping up to date on One Piece through accounts on Twitter. And the Discord has been a great resource for that, because we have awesome Discord users who are totally in love with One Piece and anime and manga as much as if not more than us, I would say. But let's get into this chapter 1087. Very excited to get into it with you, Travis. We do not have a break next week, but we do know we're going to have a break the following week. So we do need to figure out what our coverage is going to be around then. I do hope we can have a summer anime catch-up kind of thing, since there's a lot of stuff that's been coming out the last couple of weeks. I have so many things on my watch list, and I really want to, get to that. But for now, we have our main beats here. I'm gonna try to fly through this. Here we go. We have a reader request that features Ace. It's fun. That's all I wanted to say about it. I like capybaras. Okay, so Battleship Bags. The chapter opens at a ship graveyard on the G1 naval base. I think that's where Marineford was, where we see Commodore Branu telling Django and Full Body about how Garp and Kuzan used to train by punching holes into battleships without using devil fruits or hockey, and they earned their strength by sheer effort. This cuts us back to the fight on Hachinosu, or Pirate Island full of lead, between the Marines and the Blackbeard pirates, where Garp has just thrown the massive San Juan wolf into the water where he has to be saved from drowning. At the same time, we see Garp taking on tons of pirates on his own, including Vasco's shot, while some of the Marines evacuate the captives and injured off the island. Garp. That's like Garp and Koby's relationship name. Garp calls on Koby, Prince Groose, and Helmeppo to pull back with him now that the evacuation is complete. But Kuzan returns after the massive blow he took from Garp several chapters ago, and the two are about to resume their fight. But first, Koby gets lured into a trap by Shiryu, forcing Garp to save him by getting in the way and being stabbed through the gut with Shiryu's blade. Garp, still on his feet despite this, knocks out Shiryu in response, but his injuries have left him vulnerable enough for the Blackbeard pirates to swarm him and seize upon his cross-guild bounty, worth 3 billion berries. Kuzan rushes past these small fry pirates, however, and takes Garp head-on with his ice glove attack. Before the blow actually happens, we flash back to a much younger Garp training a much younger Kuzan as his apprentice, and then we flash forward to Garp lamenting his son and grandson becoming a revolutionary and a pirate, respectively. And then it all comes to their final blows against one another, resulting in Garp fallen and Pizarro using his Isle fruit to cut off their escape. And to make matters worse, Pizarro reaches out a massive island-powered hand to strike down the evacuating ship, but the chapter ends with Garp telling Koby not to panic and that justice will prevail. We're back on Hachinosu. I did not see this coming. I think we might have thrown it out as like, oh, maybe we'll get more of this fight later, but I was so sure like after the break we'd be going to Egghead, and I do think we will be going to Egghead by the end of the next chapter. I think that's a given. I think we've got a little bit of this stuff left to like tie it up, and then we're gonna boom, Egghead's coming back. But Travis, initial thoughts.
I mean, you hit the first thing right on the head. Is I absolutely came into this expecting to go back to Egghead because we've been just without the main story. It's almost like we've flipped the script, because if you're a long-time One Piece reader, which I hope you are because we've just been spoiling things left and right here, you have noticed that a lot of interesting things happen off screen. They happen in chapter cover stories, if they get covered at all while, in the main story. Sometimes we just get them as exposition later. This is the kind of thing that would be that in a previous arc. But we are not in that time anymore. We're in the final saga. So now a lot more time is being dedicated to these brawls and these events. And as a result, it almost feels like whatever's happening on Egghead is the thing we're going to find out happened later. That's not the case, obviously, but it did leave me, I think, initially kind of disappointed because I really wanted to get back to Egghead. And yeah, that's not what happened. At all. But what an interesting opening there with it almost feels like Oda does see the tweets about power scaling. Like he has his own secret Twitter account out there and he sees everybody doing the power scaling. So he really, really quick is like, this is the power scale for Kuzan and Garp. Look.
Well, it's not just that. It's also the line that he says, the strength of those heroes wasn't gifted at birth. And he's saying it so seriously. And I do think that Oda sometimes wants to express that he hasn't gotten away from that feeling that these characters don't just inherit they inherit will, but they earn it too. And so even though Luffy is the grandson of Garp, Luffy didn't start off being extremely gifted, right? He was inspired by a lot of things, and it's almost sort of like a coincidence that he comes from like Dragon and Garp. But really, like, I think that this is Oda trying to dial something in that I think a lot of people have been questioning ever since the Joy Boy thing, where it's like, is this another story about destiny? Like, no thanks. And I don't think that that's the case. I think Oda still has some tricks up his sleeve, and this is a nice little seeding of that thought. I really like how he ties it up there.
Oh yeah, this is one of those things. Like you hear that, Kaido says things like Roger didn't have fruit powers, and like you kind of know that, but we haven't really seen the full scale of what that means. Garp, on the other hand, is alive and could demonstrate that right here, right now, and he is completely. He's absolutely making quick work out of multiple Titanic captains here.
Although it is also interesting to me that, okay, look, we know he's gotten a little bit older, a little bit out of step, as he says, but it didn't take like a lot of Blackbeard pirates to ultimately take him down, which to me sets up that Kuzan is a lot stronger than I think I gave him credit for when we did our tier list. So I think one of the things I told you, Travis, ahead of time for this chapter is like, you know what? Or I think I said this in the Discord. I think I would at this point move Kuzan up the rankings quite a bit, because Garp's not going down easy. Even getting stabbed like he did, Kuzan takes his blow and he brings Garp down. Now, I don't know if this fight's over. There could be another step to this. I think that Kuzan's ultimately going to prevail, but I think we're going to see more of like the end point of Garp as a character. I don't think that means he'll die, but I do think something definitive is going to sound off his defeat, if that makes sense.
Yeah. The death flags are admittedly flying right now, for sure. It's hard not to get that vibe. I also do get the impression that some people still think that this is like a whole setup, like a bit, like Kuzan's like undercover. Man, I don't know. That sounds like Cope at this point to me, because he hits extremely hard here. And the thing that I started thinking about when these two just started like changing blow for blow, and we just saw how powerful we were really talking about here. How much more powerful do you think Sakazuki is? Right. Like we may have to revisit the whole power scaling tier that we had on that list, the more we think about it. But really, like, you know, I think you're right. I think in terms of like current Garp versus Kuzan, I think that goes Kuzan's way. I think that's kind of the goal. But I think it is to establish him as a proper threat rather than as anything else.
Although, look, 1v1, I don't think Kuzan wins, right?
You know, it's one of those things. We're talking about a monkey, right? We're talking about a good old Monkey D. And that smile, that grin Garp gives right after throwing San Juan Wolf completely off an island. And everybody's like, this guy's mad. Like, that is the most Luffy looking grin. And it just leads into him doing just genuinely Luffy stuff. He's just like, oh, you want to keep going? I can keep going. We'll do this. Oh yeah, I'll get stabbed, whatever. Like it's surprising just how much his style is, like you could see that in Luffy's style, despite the fact that, again, the only training that Garp really gave Luffy specifically was throwing him down a ravine for training. Question mark?
Been there.
Fun? I mean, you know, maybe.
Well, he does something similar with the characters, like when Basco Shot is shooting his drunken Spitfire, he holds up pirates as a shield and then uses them as fireballs. They're going to come out of that experience, Travis, very strong, like Luffy himself. Yeah,
right. It's such a Luffy thing, though. He would do that, absolutely. Be like, oh, that's a little hot, you know, and hold a CP0 member up. Like it's so incredible. Same with the flashback. We get to see a young Garp here. We haven't seen a young Garp in a while.
Yeah,
I think this might be the youngest we've seen him. I could be wrong. Correct me if I am.
I think we might have seen a shot of him in the God Valley, but it might have been
like
before
a silhouette, or was he?
Maybe.
I cannot remember. Is the thing. He just looks so much like a grown-up Luffy here.
Yeah. He's got the same really scar there under his eye. Just fun to see. I did want to point out to you, by the way, that, man, I mean, we end the chapter, and I know I'm cutting all the way to the end here, but I just want to put this out there, right? Because what's going to happen to Garp? And I, first of all, love how Pizarro's devil fruit is paying off here. I love that he has his own ambition that he speaks on, where he's like, we want to make a name for ourselves too. He's, of course, talking about himself, trying to be like, I'm going to be the one who really like ends this fight. And what's going to happen next, right? Garp is down for the count. Koby is like, what happens to him at this point? And I would love to see a big Koby moment happen here, because I think we need something to try to like really sell that Koby is on like the ascent. And if he's the one who can find a way to stop that attack and save that ship, and maybe we see something huge happen with Koby. I want that so badly, but it has to be Koby deciding that he's not going to save Garp so that he can save those civilians. So that's what I want. That's my big, bold prediction. If it doesn't happen that way, it's classic Oda fashion, right? But that to me is what would feel the most fitting.
Are you saying you want to see Koby jump up in the air and like a vertical down B onto Pizarro's hand there?
There you go. Yeah. Young Link. No, but how perfect would that be? Because he has to choose saving his friends over his mentor. And that's the thing that needs to drive, because we were talking about this before. We need something to really drive this guy he has to have his Obi-Wan moment, right?
Sure. I've been curious about Koby's motivations for a while. This really feels like to me, especially in that last panel right above, the final panel with Garp talking, it's big Marineford vibes. It's big right before Shanks steps in thing to end the war kind of energy on Koby's part, but nobody is coming this time. There's not going to be an intervention. There's no reason to be an intervention. So I think you're right. I think this is going to be a thing where those remaining are going to have to deal with this themselves. And, it's probably not going to be Garp. I do think Koby is due for a big hero moment because we know that he's capable of it. But we've not seen that in action yet.
Yeah, he was shackled, right? And all these people did something for him. We need something to try to avoid the weird drama of like, all this stuff happened because Koby got captured. And if he's able to have a hero moment, you're right. It definitely softens that blow at least a little bit. My question then is, what happens to Garp? So if Garp does not die, which I don't think he will, I think there's still more to come with that character in the story, maybe. But if he does survive somehow and he's captured, the question then becomes, okay, well, what does Blackbeard use him as the bargaining chip that he was going to use Koby as, or is he going to bring him to the Cross Guild for money? Because they directly point out here he's worth 3 billion berries, same amount as an admiral, which makes sense. But I don't know, Travis. Do you think that's what's going to happen here? Cross Guild, or maybe something? Maybe there's a third option. Maybe something else.
It's worth remembering that the pirates living here on Pirate Island aren't necessarily like Blackbeard's crew, and he doesn't take care of them in the same way. And that's even to say whether or not he takes care of his main crew. As you pointed out, they have their own ambitions. So it isn't to say that like these lesser pirates get the jump on Garp and get his Cross Guild money. Like I don't think Blackbeard has any interest in that. Chances are good he's more good for cash than the Cross Guild is. I'm just going to come out and say it.
Well, that's why I would like the idea of like Blackbeard being like, let's bring him and like take a bunch of money and then we'll use it to buy a big ship, and it'll be something really childish, but then the Cross Guild will be like, we actually don't have enough money to pay off for an admiral. And then I could see there being a really interesting like almost cross schism between the Cross Guild, the Straw Hat Pirates, and the Blackbeard Pirates over Garp.
Do you think that like Crocodile's assets were frozen after Alabasta? Did that ever come up?
Good question. Yeah. I would like to look into that to see when was the last time we got a little peek at his bank account. And actually on that note too, because I don't want to lose the Aokiji of it all. He has his sort of like flashback moment. I almost find it kind of, pun intended, I guess, chilling how cold he is in this moment. His mentor, right?
He punches to kill. That line cuts harder than any attack Garp has sustained.
You raised a formidable foe.
That's cold, man. That's I love this little flashback. It's a 1-page flashback, which doesn't happen that much in One Piece. But it does a perfect job describing this relationship and also kind of where it's broken down a little bit.
I get, like, why is it? That's the thing I don't fully understand. Why does Aokiji, why does Kuzan hate Garp enough to do this? Is it hate? Is it just more sort of like you're in my way?
I don't think it's hate. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that, because Garp, the Garp, post God Valley is probably a slightly different Garp, but we see just over those very short panels as like Kuzan gets a little bit tougher with his punches every single time. Something else causes Garp to whine. Dragon. And then Luffy, all of that over the course of time. And then Aokiji is an admiral, and now Garp is bothering him about like, oh, take time with me. It's if I were to read into this super hard, it would seem to me that Garp came to see Kuzan as a replacement for the family members who didn't go his way.
Whereas he sees Koby as the future of the Marines.
I think he sees Koby in the exact same way. I think he sees Koby in the same way, in that Koby's following the path that Garp wanted for his children and grandchildren. Kuzan followed that for a little bit, and I do think that Ohara plays a factor in this, by the way, that, like, you know, what is Kuzan's deal? I think it's more about the totality of things that he's witnessed more than a specific thing with Garp. But, you know, it is worth noting that Garp does seem to have a little bit of projection, a little bit of, you know, funny projection. He even mentions at the beginning when Kuzan first asks him, he's like, don't get in the way of my freedom, which is an incredibly Luffy line. But, you know, then Garp kind of does the same thing as they flip back around, and he's older now, and he's like, come have tea with me. Come waste my time, you know, waste your time. And, you know, Kuzan doesn't want that anymore. That's the read that I get anyway.
So you could almost argue this is the Luffy versus Garp fight by proxy almost.
Almost.
Because Kuzan is like the version of Luffy who did choose the life of the Marines, and then it didn't bring him what he wanted because that wasn't really his sense of justice, if you will. And to your point, he's now at the point where he does not want the world government to continue for reasons that we'll probably get more indication later. And that's what drives him to not stay in that hole or not just let Garp and them leave. Like he could have just left. He could have just been like, whatever, I don't care. But no, he decides, I want to be the one who takes down Garp. And I want to be the one who strikes a real blow to the world government for reasons that I think should be kind of clear. Without Garp, they are significantly weaker. He was their unofficial sort of fourth admiral.
He was the hero. It wasn't even just that he was powerful. It's important to note that Garp has this mythic status. You see it in the chapter. You see it where he gets stabbed by Shiryu, and all of a sudden he becomes mortal to the people in the area.
How chilling when Shiryu's like laughing too.
Yeah, because he got a hit. He did what he needed to do. He made the god bleed, basically.
Raises his stocks on him being up against Zoro, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And that's where you find out that observation hockey does work on the clear fruit, and it's useless. That's where you find out, and it turns out he has to fight Usopp. That would be hilarious. That's not gonna happen.
That would be pretty funny.
Funny. But, you know, like, just the idea that Garp can bleed is such a revelation to even these pirates.
It's like five elders leaving their room kind of level of
right. Like, this man throws cannonballs. This guy, like, just drops massive political upheaval like as a lore dump when he's picking his nose. Like, Garp is a very unique character, both in and out of the story. And to take him down, whether that's capturing him or he is, you know, dead, which I'm leaning towards the dead thing personally, because I think that has more impact on Luffy directly.
I'm putting the stocks in now then. All right. Yeah. John predicts
captured.
John predicts dead. Garp has been captured. Travis predicts Garp dead.
Yeah. In any case, I do think that a victory here for Kuzan is a victory for Blackbeard, and I think it's a big one, because here's the thing about the Yonko, right? They seem to have a tentative, truce is not the right word, but understanding with the Marines. You know, the admirals do not go to the territories of the Yonko and pick a fight, you know, right? Green Bull wasn't even cleared to go to Wano after Kaido was confirmed defeated. Like, he did that of his own volition. They don't do this. When more than one of them shows up on a battlefield, there has to be a literal strategic consideration to just how much collateral damage it is going to cause to pick another fight. So this idea that someone as powerful as an admiral, someone who, you know, has this epitaph that has genuine meaning, not just to the Marines and the people that they, finger quotes, serve, but to the world nobles as well. There is this idea that you can make someone that powerful bleed, whether that's, you know, you capture him, you kill him. I think it has the same effect. I think that makes Blackbeard a significantly more dangerous force to be dealing with.
His bounty's probably going up. I mean, it's one of his subordinates.
Kuzan's getting one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for dang sure.
And we already know he's a Titanic captain. That was finally confirmed.
Correct.
But I think like the thing to remember too, and you touched on this a lot, when I think this whole construction of how the world of One Piece works in relation to the Marines, it very much is like Oda being obsessed with Stratego or civilization, or just this massive sort of like, if I use my resources here, I lose the ability to use them over here. A lot of what they do, I think there's some confusion sometimes in the story of people are like, why didn't the world government do this? They have people power enough. Why didn't they just go kill Big Mom? To what you're saying, the emperors are useful to them,
right?
Because the emperors stop small fry. They basically they took care of the worst generation for the Marines. The Marines didn't have to lose a single person to get rid of Eustace Kid, for example, to get rid of how many, like all of them almost at this point, except for a select few. Basil Hawkins gone. Beige is still out there, but barely. So I think that like there's this strategy to it. It was like, yeah, they're either going to get assimilated into the Yonko system, or they're just going to, peter out. And that's why they didn't intervene at first with the Straw Hat raid, which they probably knew about, or when they heard about, because they did know about it, right? Because CP0 was there.
Right.
But of course, they looked at it as like, this is an opportunity for Kaido to kill Luffy. And they wanted that more than they wanted Luffy to beat Kaido.
Right. Yeah. In Wano's case, it was very obvious. Whatever was going to happen was going to destabilize the region enough. But even then, they wanted to evaluate the situation, see what was going to happen. But we could extrapolate this up all the way to Emu. What did he say just a few chapters ago? They genuinely don't care. Like, I've always had the question of if the D is such a big deal, why has Luffy just been allowed to run around with that name? Why has Garp been allowed to run around with that name? Why don't you just go deal with every single person with D in their name? You think about Law. Like, Law hid his, but like Luffy's just always had it. He's never given it any thought. And Emu answers this question. It's not a big deal. They don't know what it means. As long as they don't know what it means, why do I care? Same with the poneglyphs. If the poneglyphs are just a thing to get pirates' treasure, it's annoying. It's a problem. But you have these emperors who each of them are hoarding one. It prevents any of them from getting any further information. Why disrupt that until you get a big super weapon you could drop down on all of them from the sky? Like,
sure.
It makes a lot of sense now that we've seen so much more of how this puts together. And so again, for one of these emperors to not play ball that way and take down a Garp and recruit another admiral to his side, like if I were Sakazuki, I would take that as a personal challenge. Personally, I'd be like, all right, where are those kid robots we were using? We need to deal with a problem, kind of situation. I think that might even be one of the various triggers of this, ever-present war that we all sense is kind of coming and has been threatened by Oda multiple times.
Right, which is why I think when we do go to Egghead next, I think that, first of all, we're going to see, I think, a lot of Kizaru coming in. And I think we're going to get further expansion of like what the admirals are capable of beyond what we've already seen. And on top of that, I have been thinking a lot too about what happens next for Koby and his sort of trajectory at this point. His dream is to become an admiral. What better way to become an admiral than to defeat one? And in this case, he'd be defeating the admiral who possibly killed or led to the killing of his mentor. I think that this is like a strategic move on Oda's part, being like, endgame 1v1 is probably going to be Kuzan and Koby. I know we've said it before, but I think that's what it's going to come down to.
Do you think Koby has had the time and the training to do that? He's
got this. I believe in him, Travis.
I mean, I want to believe in him too, but he was younger than Luffy.
He's 18 right now in the story. But look at how much he has grown in 3-4 years.
I will grant that. I will grant that we said, we don't even know what happened at Rocky Port. Still, we don't know what he did. Koby is also considered a hero.
He won Hibari's heart. That's all I need to know. Also, I'll say that I think with Koby, we're one hinted training arc away from him showing up and causing it, because I think that all we really need is him showing up at the doorstep of like ex Drake or something and just being like, teach me how to be cool. And he'll be like, all right. And then we won't see Koby again for 3 years. But then when we do, he'll be even more buff. I don't know.
We could have a late stage a Deus Ex Gecko Moria and fill him with the 300 shadows and get Nightmare Koby. That's an option.
Nightmare Koby. I love it. I love it so much. It's a straightforward chapter. I definitely like on a broader level. I enjoyed the banter. I love seeing a little bit more Prince Gru just being like, Garp, I'm the future of the Navy, right? Like that was funny.
Helmeppo being a little coward again.
Yep.
What after wanting so badly to be right where he is, like go get Koby, and then just absolutely flips the script. Like, oh, I should have gone and been on the boat.
Hibari, super cute, she's like, I'm sorry, but we know she's okay, she's fine. She's like, I'm sorry I was a burden. We're like, you were, Hibari, but you did it for Koby, and then he's gonna hopefully save you, and you're gonna have to go to your dad Sakazuki and explain what's going on here. I'm holding to that theory.
That would be great. I would love that, genuinely. I believe in it. Especially,
I just love the idea of like a Kainu having to like respect Koby at some point if Koby's actually like does something like that. I don't know.
What I would love is a whole cover story dedicated to Sakazuki doing everything he can to break that relationship up, like a little rom-com slice of life, like
he's like
Sakazuki's desk job episode.
He like puts laxatives into Koby's coffee, but Koby, it makes him stronger. And he's just like, wow, I've never had this much energy. He's like, what the hell?
Let me ask you. That's
my daughter.
What do you think are the odds that this just doesn't end well at all?
Oh, you mean like
not just
everybody's captured?
Just like everybody loses. Like, what if this is another annihilation sequence we're about to see? Like, just not necessarily that there's odds of it, but like, what do you think of that idea?
It's so unlikely. It's too big of like a victory for Blackbeard. It's just too much. I think that if it was the entirety of the Blackbeard pirates and Blackbeard himself, sure. But we're only talking about a handful of the Titanic captains. A few of them are already down for the count. We have, 3 of them right now who are still in action? I think that actually, no, because I think Kuzan is down. I think we see him like take a pretty sizable hit. I don't think we see him after that, but I don't think he's probably going to get back up. He's probably not going to, he's not at full strength. And I think that he's going to, if he does one more thing, I think that it's going to not be in desperation. I think everybody's getting out of this but Garp, is my prediction. I hope, at least.
Yeah. These days, I don't know. Maybe we go back and see where that pays off for a whole nother chapter. But, things feel a lot more tense than they used to. It really does feel like there's something upsetting coming down the line. And I think a Garp going down or his whole fleet going down, kind of paying for picking a fight like that. I mean, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah. How were you surprised that their attack wasn't the sort of like sky splitting Ryu kind of attack that we've been seeing more often? Because we see, I think, Black Lightning that suggests that both characters are using Conqueror's Haki. That's obviously not confirmed, but it would make sense if that's what ultimately brings Garp down to on his back.
That's an interesting question, because it does cause a pretty sizable explosion. It doesn't like split the sky. I think the sky splitting thing, especially in Wano, was really supposed to be about the symbolism more than anything else. There were clouds all over the place. This looks like more of a daytime battle, honestly. So I think it's just it was more dynamic to put an explosion with, associate that with Garp more than anything else. I don't know if it was Conqueror's Haki. It looks like Conqueror's Haki, like the lightning, like the lightning-esque effect kind of seems that way to me. It's kind of interesting that it's not as clear as you would think it would be normally. But that's definitely
when is it ever clear? We've been debating who has Conqueror's Haki endlessly since 2010. True.
True.
I don't know.
Right. That's an interesting concept though, because Conqueror's Haki is generally, you know, talked about as like only a select few could do it. And so if both of these men have it, that's kind of an interesting little addendum to the power that you have isn't earned, isn't just gifted to you. You have to earn it. But I mean, it could just be that they weren't actually giving it 110%. Maybe. I mean, it took a lot for Luffy and Kaido to split that sky. You know what I mean?
Well, and also, yeah. Although, I mean, Garp really lays it on the line where he's like, "Consider yourself expelled, you dunce."
Yeah. What's some cool lines this chapter. I mean, weirdly, not a super talky chapter. There's not a lot of like standout jokes or anything like that. You know, they don't really find time for the humor. But those two lines are so good. I can't get over how good they are. Seriously, that Kuzan's line cuts deeper than anything, than any punch. It was laced with Conqueror's Haki, if anything.
There you go. I'm so excited to see the anime get a hold of this whole thing. It's such a massive battle, and it you can, like, just reading it, feel the scale of it. I want to see Garp like just facing down this legion of pirates from all over the place and like the chaos of it. And I definitely want to see Bruce's clay mace in action. It looks pretty cool. I wrote that down. I was like, I need to make a point of that.
Do you think the anime will follow the exact pacing of the chapters and go back and forth between these? Or do you think they'll do it in such a way that whatever we get of all of this battle on Hachinosu, that's a whole episode or two?
They've done that before, right? Like, they've kind of changed it up so that the pacing isn't so works. Scattered. It would make more sense, to just like segment this out. And I'm fine with it either way, because I think that in this case, the anime would just sort of be adjusting a release schedule that is based more around marketing and hype and synergy with the anime sometimes than it is like the best way to tell the story. Because, my opinion is, why have this here? I kind of wonder a lot over like, why put the emu stuff in the middle of it? You know what I mean? And I do think it's because they are transitioning from this moment into what happens next to Egghead with the Marines, right? We're hopefully going to see the Marines like actually making it to Egghead in some way, or maybe they'll already be there. So like this would be the nice transition, as opposed to, the whole like Sabo and Revolutionaries and Lily thing. But then in that case, why not just move the Reverie stuff before this? So that's the thing that's kind of confusing me. And I don't know. It could just be one of those things where he was like, where Oda was thinking like, oh, because this was more of the Blackbeard stuff, and you wanted to be clear like where the Blackbeard pirates were, and so people weren't like, oh, Blackbeard's going to show up. I don't know.
I think a part of it does have to do with the breaks too, because Oda definitely likes to try to if we're going on a break, even if it's for just like a week, he really tries to give us something to chew on. He doesn't want like a mid-fight scene to be the thing we go on a break for. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but you think about like the last couple of chapters we got before his surgery. They had some of the most wild revelations we've ever had in the entire series.
Right.
And that kind of served to give us something to chew on and really think about for that whole amount of time.
Oda's so nice. He single-handedly powered the monetization of YouTube channels everywhere.
Yeah, literally, we know he's aware of those. So like, but I do, he thinks about this on a week to week basis. He thinks about what the reaction of a reader is going to be picking up an issue of Shonen Jump off the shelf, a kid in Japan. He wants them to be satisfied. And if that's, and if they're not going to get a chapter next week for whatever reason, I think he does genuinely want to make sure that he's given a little bit extra into that. So I think that's kind of impacted the way this has gone, because we've gotten past calling this Egghead realistically, right? Like this is a whole
Egghead
different
and Friends.
Egghead and Friends, really. I think a while ago we had talked about the idea of this being viewed as more like a tournament arc, and I think now that feels more true than before.
You think so? Like,
yeah, I mean, we've gotten straight up fights ending. Like, think about Law and Blackbeard. You think about Shanks and Kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like this definitely is more like akin to, like, I know this is called the Final Saga. I don't know if the Egghead arc is the official title. I've heard this also called the Future Island arc. And yeah, I don't know
Future
if that's
Island does seem to be what the Japanese is using to refer to a bunch of stuff, but I don't think it's gotten an official title yet because we don't know how long it's going to be, honestly. Yeah. No, obviously, I don't think it's the last arc, but clearly, the way that we're going to be measuring what is an arc and what can be in an arc is going to change. I think it'd be very funny if at the end of like all of this, we get a page that reveals like, oh, this is the aftermath of the Egghead incident, and then when we go back to Egghead, we get we know how it ends, and it's all about how in the world did that happen. Something just incredibly unbelievable, and then like everything else from there, and we needed all of this context to get to it. Something like that kind of feels like where we're going.
I just love so much that in this arc, we have seen so much happen. It's been so much denser. We haven't gone through the whole rigmarole of here are 20 to 30 new characters who are, I'm sure, lovely, but it's like, can we just, get to the good part? And this has just been nothing but good parts.
We've done that though, haven't we? You think about the
Vegapunks are characters we knew about though. They're not totally new characters in the sense that like we're going to an island and we're just sort of like, here's a short story, essentially. It's all been very tied.
I know, but you think about Marines. This is the most that Law's crew's ever been relevant to a story. I think we're still doing it. I think it's just there's a lot more scale happening. And because we keep moving between thing to thing to thing, nothing necessarily feels like we've been doing it too long. That's a thing that happens a lot in One Piece when you're reading it week to week, is it feels like every week you've gotten the same Rebecca flashback over and over again. And maybe that's true, but...
Why?
Well,
that's everything that I wanted to bring up with the chapter. I'd be down to do a little anime check-in if you want. We probably have a few minutes to go here. I know this is a little tighter of a recap than usual. Is there anything though that we wanted to cap off?
No, actually, I think that really covers it. This is just, it was very breezy of a chapter. Yeah. Not short, but I mean, it's just very straightforward. This is one of those ones that, again, I don't think Oda would like to go into a break week with. So that's kind of where I feel like we're at pacing wise.
Only 2 present day locations, Hachinosu and like the 1 page of like the G1. That's it. G1, and the flashback. So like pretty easy. Okay. Anime check-in. A lot of stuff out there. A lot of stuff popping. I just watched Zom 100. I think it's brilliant. No notes. I'm already teed up episode 2. It's going to happen. Most ironic show of the season, considering what it's saying about work culture and like Mappa in general. The people who make it. I don't know if you've been watching Zom 100 or not.
So Zom 100 has a very, it turns out, possibly very straight up, we are going to call out another studio shot I have ever seen. This is a new studio, which is, just formed by other professionals and everything, but it don't look like it. That's for sure.
It looks so cutting edge. I mean, and speaking of, cutting edge, like you, I have been watching nothing but The Girl Who Forgot Her Glasses. Your favorite of the season, and
we had one of our Discord.
The Girl I Like mods, Forgot Her Glasses. Sorry,
one of our Discord mods pinged me directly and was like, "I need you to watch the first 3 minutes of this. That's all you need to do, just to watch."
Why would you do that to your eyes?
Well, it's so, and I know him. He's a good guy. So I'm like, all right, it's probably
he's a bit
funny.
Of a prankster, sounds like.
It's pretty funny, and I hadn't looked at this beyond knowing it was on the list because there's a lot of anime, so oftentimes I will just pull the full list and I will go to our writing team and be like, here's everything, what do we want more information on, that kind of thing. So I didn't know too much going in. Good Lord. The assault on the eyeballs that is I'm watching this, and I will just spoil it so that you all do not have to go watch the first 3 minutes of this anime. But it opens with the main protagonist walking to school and talking about the girl that he likes. And it is the most mind-boggling shot sequence I have ever seen in anything. That includes live action film.
I love it.
It's so bizarre.
It's so unhinged.
They do this weird Dutch angle 3D tracking thing, and it makes his legs look like he's Stiltman, but also like a wibbly arm tube man at the same time. It does this weird rotational shot around staircases. The positioning of cameras when he's supposed to be like talking to her in his mind makes him look like he's 7 feet tall. And I'm like, what is going on with this guy's legs? And then the logo for Go Hands appears at the center of the screen, and I go from what is going on to yep, that checks out.
Yeah,
immediately.
Here's why I love it. I love finding cheap ways to simulate the experience of being high, and this is one of the cheapest ways yet. You can just watch it and be like, I didn't have to smoke anything. I didn't have to take an edible. I just got to turn the key. And here we are, because I loved it. I was smiling. I was just like, I love how weird and stupid and horrific this is. I want everyone to watch it. I want to share it with my parents. I didn't. I pulled back on that.
It's just good old Go Hands. And then the funniest part about that experience was the next day when Allie popped into a chat that I'm in and brought up another anime and was like, this is the worst tracked thing I've ever seen. It wasn't The Girl I Like Forgot Her Glasses. It was a different series. And I'm like, who did that show? And they're like, it's a company called Go Hands. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's just what they do. What do you mean somebody gave Go Hands 2 anime in a season?
They're innovators,
Are you
Travis.
kidding?
That's all.
That's their claim. That's the claim.
Speaking of innovation, I mentioned this on the In Between Draft Slack that going from Zom 100 to My Tiny Senpai, episode to episode, highly recommend. Brilliant choice on my part, because I was just like laughing and slapping my knee and just being like, I have a funny existence, don't I?
I knew My Tiny Senpai was going to be bait for you the second I saw it. You're
like, oh no, a John
for our writers meeting, which you did not make it to last time, which made it even better. What I do, just to give everybody listening a peek behind the curtain, what I do is I go month by month through the season and call out different series and things like that, and I put My Tiny Senpai on the list exclusively for you. I was like, and here's this that John will probably be interested in based on the premise.
A little mean, but I can't blame you. I know Allie Johnson, obvious co-host of the show who doesn't come on for One Piece content. She's been, I think, pretty happy with Horimiya so far. The season 2, that's not really a season 2. It's sort of filling in the blanks of the anime with scenes from the manga. I kind of decided, though, that I was just going to read the manga and just do that. Because I don't know. I've been getting more interested in manga lately over anime for reasons that have to do with, you guessed it, Domestic Girlfriend. And then one anime I do want to start that I haven't yet is Undead Murder Farce. I have that on my list. I still have to catch up on Oshinoko. Please stop bothering me, everybody who knows that it'll change my life. Yes, I am a huge, ginormous Kaguya stan. Reign of the Seven Spellblades, I started and have been liking. I just wanted to put that one out there, Travis, because that to me felt very much like filling my Mashal hole, of like, let's make fun of Harry Potter, but also do it better at the same time.
Can you believe that Shonen Jump once again has a hit anime that's going to go at least a couple of seasons, and it just ended in their magazine?
I know, right? It
really
is. Well, let me tell you about Domestic Girlfriend, which is 277 chapters, and 276. And I read all 276 chapters, and it's changed my life, altered the course of my life. Certain things have happened, life decisions, because of that manga. I've expressed this to both you and Allie, much to both of yours.
I really need you to explain what this manga is about before you go any further.
It is the wildest thing I have ever read of any story. Not just manga. Just any medium, any Domestic Girlfriend. The whole premise of it is that you meet this guy who is 16 years old. His name is Natsuo, and he has a single father. His mother died when he was like 6 years old, and he has a huge crush on his teacher. His teacher is 21, and she's been working at the school for a while, for just a year. And he has this big crush on her because they have these like rooftop chats. This is all the first chapter, okay? And he knows that he has to get over this because he knows he doesn't have a shot with her as much as he loves her, as much as she's best girl. So what ends up happening is he goes to a karaoke mixer, and there's this very standoffish girl there. But for some reason, she still finds him kind of interesting, or maybe more different than the other guys. And she takes him back to her place and asks him to have sex with her because she wants to just lose her virginity and finally just do it for a reason. We don't even find out exactly why she does it until later in this arc. So, and yes, it is an arc. It's a powerful arc. It makes One Piece arcs look like peacetime. But so he loses his virginity to this girl, and she's just like, I don't want to see you again. And he's like, yeah, whatever. But he's obviously like very like, he hoped that it would help him get over the crush he has on his teacher, his sensei. His dad comes up to him and is like, son, I got remarried, or I'm going to get remarried, and I want you to meet the family of the woman I'm going to marry. And he's like, okay, whatever. That's fine. So he meets his stepmother to be, and wouldn't you know it, she has 2 daughters. One of them is his teacher, and one of them is a girl he just lost his virginity to. End of chapter. No break next week, because you're never going to take a break. You're just going to keep reading over and over again. And Travis, I lost my mind. Around chapter 250, I stopped being able to function. You earlier used the word good. It made me laugh. I didn't know what to do. I was like, good? You think that word sums it up? You think you could just describe this manga? And by the way, this is actually really important. The anime is trash. I started with the anime. The anime is bad, like straight up bad. It does not understand what is appealing about the manga. And in all seriousness, there is something deeply, primally appealing about the manga. The creator, Sasuga K, is a genius, actually. I've already started her next work. And I'm not kidding around when I say that she's a genius who uses trash to kick ass. That's who she is. And I will be following in her footsteps as her number one otaku for the rest of my life. But read the manga. Do not watch the anime. The anime is a waste of time.
I mean, there's a part of me that still cannot tell if you were saying that you have lost all function because it's like actually good, or because it's actually bad and it's so bad it's good. I cannot tell. There's no way to tell without actually reading this.
It defies the idea of like what makes something good versus what makes it bad. Because this manga makes you scream. It makes you ache. Travis, I had like a bad day after a certain chapter. Like I was just sad. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to. What did I do? Like, what?
This doesn't change anything. I still can't tell if you loved it or not.
I loved it more than words can describe, Travis. I was hoping that was clear. Also, this is important too. The manga is done. It has the wildest ending. Like the ending of it, I don't think you could possibly predict the ending of this. Like it is so bat crazy. Like it's just nothing. Like the best way to describe it, I sent you a video to this effect. It is if a manga was a soap opera, essentially. The creator has said that she wanted to make a soap opera manga. And that probably will make you be like, well, I don't like soap operas. What do you like? Trust. Just trust. Like, it's just, you'll understand. You'll understand. Alia said that she's going to read it. I already feel bad. I don't usually reread
everybody
manga.
is going to have to read it because I still cannot 100% tell if you loved it or if you're messing with me. I like there's that little part of me that just can't tell, and that's my own irony poisoning.
I selfishly want you to read it so that you can understand and talk to me about it, but it is also one of those things where like you're better off just like continuing in where you are now and just not having this albatross around your neck everywhere you go, because that's what's happening to me.
I've been reading One Piece since I was a kid. that ship has sailed.
One Piece has always been escapism for me. It's like, man, this is that world where things feel right. I almost said Kaguya-sama. Domestic Girlfriend is so different. It's like it messes with you. It gets in your head. It's like a disease, and you want to give it to other people, but you don't, because you want it for yourself almost. And
That's just
So,
One
yeah.
Piece.
I never feel
that's
like
your
I want to keep
average-
One Piece to myself. I always want to spread the word on that.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I mean. Is like you become so mind poisoned, you have to give your brain slug to someone else.
but
like
hey,
those,
for the price
Futurama
of
ones.
half a Dressrosa and the Wano arc, you get a whole manga from beginning to end that will make you question the idea of like what's possible with storytelling, but maybe not in a good or bad way. So I seriously, I never reread manga. Like if I ever reread manga, it's because it's like sections that maybe I watched from just the anime and then I moved to the manga. Like I never feel like when I end something, I'd want to start it again. I did feel that way a bit with Kaguya-sama. It's one of my favorite stories of all time, but this is different. I had to do it for my own sanity. Like it was an addiction. It was like a compulsion to like go back. And so here I am. And I don't know how many times I'm going to read this thing. I'm trying to get out of it. I'm like a couple of cuckoos. I could read that manga. It got so desperate, Travis. I started reading the Demon Slayer manga. Travis,
you hate that.
the Demon Slayer manga, the one that I hate. Which actually, by the way, I read about 30, 40 chapters, and it does pick up. It does get to the point where I was like, you know what? I was too harsh. Maybe I judged you too harshly, Demon Slayer. So,
I mean, 30, 40 chapters is still a lot to ask.
I hear you.
Again, I realize I'm saying that on a One Piece podcast, but
well, I don't think I talked about it on here, but I think that I did finish the Swordsmith Village arc on the anime, and I thought that had a really strong ending, and so I was like, okay, you know what? I'll go for it. I'll read what happens next, and I was like, hey, this feels a bit more sort of like getting back to basics a bit. So that's all. Anyway,
yeah,
I ranted.
Yeah, no, that ends really, really good. They've been killing it. Kind of love that they didn't announce a movie after that. I'm gonna be real with you. That was super chill of them to do. For my part, for summer season, I haven't done too much yet because, frankly speaking, I'm still catching up on things. But of course, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 has begun. If you've read it, you know that basically all of Season 2 is going to be nothing but pain central, but they're doing a really good job at selling this. We basically are in the middle of a full-on flashback arc. It's not even just a little bit of a flashback here and there. It is a full arc, and it's an important arc because it does a lot of setup for what the rest of the story is going to be. But it has to make that interesting, and I think the team at MAPPA they've got a new director and a new director of photography, and I think they've really keyed in on what I think is going to do that, and that's going to be a particular relationship in the show. They're killing it there. Allie is reviewing those for in between drafts, which is great because she hasn't read it, so it's very fun for me to sit and like while I'm editing, see what she thinks is going on and be like, oh, just wait, just you wait. And then for me, of course,
you love being that guy in the editor's chair, huh?
I really, really do. It is so much fun to be like to know what's coming. Yeah, it's gonna be great. Seriously, Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't have a break in between quarters this season, and that is going to ruin some people's moods. That's for sure. And then, of course, for my part, I have resumed my self-imposed duty to continue watching the Bleach revival for its final arc, and we have reached the moment where, if you've read it and agree with me, it's not as strong as the rest of the series. But I will say, and if you have read my reviews on the page, you'll get this as well. The Studio Pirouette is absolutely killing it visually. They have to the point where I would say that they have genuinely taken material that would otherwise be okay, just okay, and made it feel way more dynamic and way more potent. In a lot of later Bleach, the manga, especially in this arc, there is a lot of liminal space that Taito Kubo uses to, kind of make you feel boxed in, kind of make you feel otherworldly. So the backgrounds are very white. There's a lot of white space in these backgrounds. That doesn't really work in anime. So what Pirouette decided to do instead was pick a very, very vibrant red to make the sky, and then a very, very deep kind of indigo for the actual buildings and the environment, and then use a very, very light shade of color grading to shadow literally every character in this environment, to really make this otherworldly feeling. And it genuinely makes things better. It they've made tweaks to the story as well. Kubo is helping with the production, so it's not like they're going against his wishes or anything. They've made tweaks here and there to kind of make things more interesting, kind of clean some stuff up. And I think starting the next episode, we're going to get some real proper anime only content as well, that I think is going to improve it. But really, just visually, it is up there with the actual high end top, AAA anime productions. Which is not something the series could have ever gotten on its weekly schedule. And that's very exciting, even if I think the material's a little bit weak. So that's been great, to a point. Good. When it's over, I may finally autopsy this poor thing, but I have been thinking in the back of my mind about Bleach's ending for like 15 years now. So, oh boy, we'll get there.
You're different from me. I stopped thinking about Bleach, I think, right around the time I was 17, and I was like, you know what? I think
if I
this is
was smart,
for me.
I would have. No, I saw Bleach through originally all the way to the end. So I was there on the cusp of the choices that they make in the final few chapters. And honestly, for a very long time, I lived under the impression that because the anime had gotten canceled, and then this arc ends in such a weird way, I operated under the idea that the manga had been cut short. They told him, hey, you get X amount of chapters, you're done. And it wasn't until this anime came out and he started doing interviews about it that is apparently not the case. So take what you will of that. But that's one of the anime that has kept me up at night many, many times for a long time, let me tell you. Long time.
Well, we'll be catching up on that and a whole lot more, I think. Maybe we'll do another anime check-in next week, or just hold it off. Maybe our break week will cover what we've been watching and reading lately. I have plenty of manga recommendations myself that I'd like to collect for you all. And by a lot of them, I mean one.
One. Oh, we didn't bring up, though, and we probably should. It really feels like we're getting Gear 5th in a week or two, max. We're right there. I think
there's an official date for it, August 5th.
Yeah, we're right there. Luffy got hammered this week, so it's coming. We're there.
I think we'll be getting the tease of it in the next episode, and then after that, we've been sending each other memes left and right about Gear 5, and it's been
the anticipation. It's
been a fun journey.
It's weird. I feel like I knew that something big was going to happen at the climax of Wano. I reread the entire series in anticipation for it. But I feel like now that I know what that thing is, the anticipation for the anime version of it is almost too much. I'm like, come on, because everything's been great. Everything has been stellar leading up to it. They have absolutely been killing it for a while now. Which is not something I would say about the One Piece anime in general. So yeah, I can't wait. Cannot wait.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will be back next week for the next chapter. Until then, thank you all for listening. And don't forget to head up the Discord. If you haven't already, links to everything we talked about at the intro are in the show notes. We'll see y'all later.